Ready to roll?
Yeah, let's fucking do it, dude.
Mate, so exciting to have you here.
Thank you
Dave,
for having
is it
me.
Dave
Man.
Hoey? That's how I say Hoey.
I think it's, bro, this is a problem I have. I think it's Hoey, but I'm not,
Hoey.
I actually don't have 100% conviction that Hoey's my last name. Because I don't know if it's Hoey or Hoey. It's spelled Hoey, but my dad's Irish and it's an Irish last name. And I don't know if he's saying Hoey and he's like slurring his words because he's got a very thick accent. Whenever he says Hoey, it's Hoey. So when I was young, I was like, oh, it's Hoey. But then I've talked to some other people and no one can seem to figure it. I mean, when you sound it out, it's Hoey. So yeah.
I've got to say, if I was to sit here and my task was to pick your background, Irish would have been probably the last thing I picked.
Well, it's half of the equation.
So what's the other half?
Maltese.
Maltese. That makes more sense.
Yeah.
The chain, the beard.
Is it out? Okay, no.
It's slightly.
I was making sure that
it
it wasn't sticking out. I didn't want to be on the nose with it. You know.
Mate, it's exciting to have you here because you popped into my world almost twice.
Mm-hmm.
So I always find it fun to recollect where I first come across a guest because sometimes when I sit down on the podcast, like I've sought somebody out for a certain topic and I want to have that kind of conversation.
Yeah.
But I just genuinely enjoyed watching your shit online. So I'd see all the Granny Flat comedy videos. It's you and Nick, right?
Yeah.
And found them hilarious because, mate, I unashamedly like all that music, right? So I've got such a weird palette of music that I'm interested to. It's a bit of everything.
Oh, yeah.
And so...
Have you got ADHD as well?
Never diagnosed. I've never asked the question, though.
Oh, really?
So potentially.
Dude. Yeah, I got the official diagnosis. I got the certificate. That explains why.
I'm actually doing an episode on this next week.
Oh, really?
Yeah. A friend of mine, Keisha Pettit, just launched a podcast called Cloud.
Yep.
And she had a recent... When I say recent, I think maybe like the last year or two diagnosis of ADHD.
Yep.
And she found that a lot of the content online around ADHD is like existing on the two poles, kind of the barbell theory, right? Like one is the ultra positive ADHD is my superpower, and there's plenty of examples of that.
Yep.
The other is ADHD is a living hell and I can't function. There's kind of no middle ground. And she wanted to kind of explore that. And she's had like TJ Powell, the neuroscientist, Mark Manson, a bunch of really credentialed people.
Damn.
And it's just launched this week. So I'm actually having a chat
That'll be
about
interesting.
this next Friday with her.
I find myself in the middle of that. But we can talk about that later because if we get into it now, that's going to be a diversion and that'll show my ADHD and all its... it's all its glory, dude.
Yeah, caught red
okay,
handed.
what were we talking about? There we go. There's the first
Um,
symptom. Music in my videos.
Yes.
You like a bit of everything.
And so I would love watching that content. In particular, the Sabrina Carpenter one really stood out as a fan favourite in our household. But then for the best part of probably 6 months, my sister and her partner, who now my fiancée Sophie and I live with, had been hassling us to watch the first season of Last King of the Cross. And I will say that usually when someone recommends me an Australian-made TV series, I'm a little bit hesitant because there's so much good stuff out there that I find a lot of the stuff that's come out of Australia in the last decade, to be fair, maybe a rough statement, I might cop a bit of hate for this, probably hasn't been as well done as stuff out of the US.
You're going to get grilled by my circle, dude.
I bet I am. I bet I am.
Throat.
But
and
I
now,
hope...
out of obligation, I need to say there is so much good Australian stuff. Some of my favourite TV shows, i.e. like Mr. In Between, stuff like that. Like, all time, bro. There's some heaters coming out. But I do get what you mean. I do get what you mean. So
I'm glad that I actually welcome the heat. So please come for me. Because what I think is really important is, this is my point here. Yeah. That's an assumption because that's what you've been told until you watch something really good and then all this stuff comes out of the woodworks. Yeah. So we finally sat down probably 3 months ago, like literally maybe just before I'd messaged you and watched the first season, was hooked. Yep. And then it was literally, we finished it and like a week later, season 2 was coming out. And then your bloody beautiful face pops up in season 2. Yep. And we were hooked, mate. We pumped through it probably quicker than I've pumped through a TV series in a long time.
Good.
And we're sat here today in the studio in Darlinghurst.
Yep.
Literally 500 metres down the road from the scene of the crime,
At the scene of the alleged crime, dude.
Yes.
Yeah, man.
And, mate, brilliant series. So what was it like to play Michael Ibrahim in Last King of the Cross?
Amazing. So much fun. Such a challenge. Yeah, I mean, just being able to delve into that world. I was with you. I binge watched season 1 before anything came on my radar because I had some friends that were in the show, Lincoln, Claude. I was just watching it because I have so many talented friends that were involved with the first season. So I had a vested interest in just watching that. And then I remember it got to episode 10 because the first season was 10 episodes. And I got to the end of that episode and I was like, fuck, I really want to know what happens next. I want to see season 2. And it was just crazy to think that the next episode was going to be involving me. But that was way back before I'd done any acting stuff, because Last King of the Cross was my first thing ever. Like with That's acting, it was my first audition, first everything. So, I mean, it was so fun playing the role. It was a tall task though, just to overcome feelings of, can I do this? Because when your first gig is on a scale like that, telling a story that has so much relevance in, Sydney culture and such a prolific family. And on top of that, having John, the executive producer, the show being about him and his family, and then you're playing his brother and he's pretty much handpicked you to play that role. There's responsibility that comes with it, but you either step up or you don't. So I was just kind of like having to stifle any feelings of doubt and just fucking go all in. And I had so much fun going all in. I'm
so glad we're talking about this because there's a bunch of questions I want to ask you off the back of this, right? And we'll get into how you got to that first audition and all of those stories. But probably an hour ago, you just met Sam, who's one of the producers here, and Jonah, who's also a part of the team that is taken off for the day. We were having a conversation around something I talked about on my podcast recently. So I did a Q&A episode, and somebody asked me, because it was to celebrate 5 years of the show.
Congrats, man. That's so sick. I appreciate that. That's dope.
Someone asked me, what would you go back and tell yourself 5 years ago if you had the chance? And I'm like, I don't know if I'd tell myself anything, because I think the naivety encouraged me to start.
Damn right.
Like, had I have known how difficult it is to get a podcast off the ground and to keep it running and how financially unstable that is, I think there would have been more hesitancy to actually just start recording.
It's because you're looking at the mountain and it's fucking vertical.
Sure.
Yeah.
For sure. It feels like it's almost an impossible task.
Yeah, big time.
So let me ask you the same question. Yeah. Now, having experienced this, do you think that naivety and almost... Was there blissful ignorance? Was there kind of a stumbling into this and we'll just see what happens because I don't expect it? Like, I didn't expect this and I haven't been working for a role like this?
I don't think... Look, if you're talking about 5 years ago, my life was... It couldn't have been more different. All you have to do is look at my driver's license. I haven't got my driver's license updated for like 5 years. But if you look at the photo of what I used to look like, me 5 years ago was like almost an entirely different person. I was just purposeless. I had no direction. I always knew that I was destined to do something with the skills I'd been given. I always knew that I had these abilities to, I guess, entertain, create, tell stories, that sort of thing. But I just had so many roadblocks in terms of the way that I was living my life, whether it came down to, my routine. So I was just so unhealthy at the time, was really overweight because I would just be gambling till all hours, and then I'd be eating food out of stress and just not moving my body. I didn't work out for probably like 4 years. I was smoking 10 cigarettes a day, vaping. I was doing basically an unhealthy concoction of, self-destructive things. So any foresight that I had for the future was just clouded by my immediate pool of self-destructive habits. And it was by making that decision to go, all right, I can't be doing this anymore. I need to, 1, get healthy, 2, like, sort my shit out. And I just started doing that by, going to the gym, eating healthy, and then that would jump into having more mental clarity to go, okay, now I feel like I can be creative today, or I'm a bit more excited about my day today, and I'm able to attack more tasks because of that mental clarity. And as I started doing more, that roll-on effect, that momentum led to me meeting new people and you being a more pleasant person to be around. And my humor started to shift from self-deprecation, because at the time all I had was fat jokes about myself, transitioning out of that and trying to be more clever with, you know, the way that I was writing my comedy stuff. And I mean, fast forward to now, all of those little things added up to bigger things. But the climb hasn't been bang. It's been just like very slowly like that. And I wouldn't have it any other way. But if I was to go back then and look at now and what it's led to, I would be like, holy. But at the same time, I think I would have been willing to do the work because I knew I had to make those changes in my life. Because if I kept going the way I was going, I'd just live a life full of regret and stagnation, pretty much.
Do you think you would have, like you 5 years ago, would have believed that this was potentially the life that you live?
It's so weird to think, because I wasn't living my life in a way that was going to show many people an indication of a future that was prosperous, or that, you know, that I was going to achieve these things. I wasn't really laying many crumbs of evidence that would lead to me being on TV or having like a platform now. But I always knew in my gut that I was destined for something bigger than what I was, you know, chasing at the time. So look, in terms of the exacts, like how we got put on the map, who we'd end up working with, me being in a TV show, like, nah, like I couldn't see it like that. And that's the beauty in it. And that's why I wouldn't change anything. But yeah, there was always something, and it was probably to do with my upbringing. Like my mum specifically had always seen that I had that creative side in me, and always encouraged me to really just like chase this thing. And I think it hurt her seeing me just doing nothing with my life, because she saw the potential. And I think subconsciously that belief fed into me, but I just wasn't doing anything about it. So I think I knew as long as I got my shit together, I'd get somewhere. As long as I worked my ass off, I'd get somewhere.
Yeah, it's such a credit. When I say here good fortune, purely off the back of your own action and work ethic to change. Such a blessing that you found that motivation and discipline to change when you did, because still in the prime of your life.
Oh God,
you know? And I think that you can have the good perspective that any stage of your life is the prime of your life for something.
Mm-hmm.
But you have now a whole career ahead of you, which, had you have not had the realization that it's time to really lock in on what my full potential is, 20 years later, it's a completely different story. Most people find far more resistance to change later in life than they do in their youth. Yeah. I've been talking about it a lot over the course of the last couple of days because I'm in the thick of it, but I find when I find something I love, like be it a book or a podcast or something I'm listening to, and it's giving me something good, like it comes up in conversation. And I've been reading the books Turning Pro by Stephen Pressfield. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, you've probably heard of The War of Art, which was his international bestseller, which was all around his career as a writer. And the theme of the book is essentially that every artist, be it you're an athlete like Zach, who was in here before, an actor like yourself, or in the comedy space, or you're in music, or you're in actual writing, you're an artist. Mm-hmm. And every artist has resistance. And that resistance comes in the form of addictions that take you away from doing the craft that you were put onto this earth to do. Yeah. And the books resonated highly with me because, you know, somebody who is very ambitious and is very driven, you find that most of the resistance you feel is of your own self-sabotage.
100%.
Right? You find yourself in these spaces of procrastination, of challenging your originally positive and naive beliefs. Yep. And life has a way of testing you. And there's a great quote, I can't remember who said it, but I'm going to say Churchill because it's a high possibility that any quote was said by Churchill, that your success is a product of whether you can bounce from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. But life tends to drain a little bit of enthusiasm from us when we go through difficult things.
Big time. And that's where discipline kicks in.
100%.
Yeah.
And I feel you must feel so fortunate that you found that at the right time of your life to now go and experience all of this.
Yeah, 100%. 100, yeah. Because that would have just led to... Is in the same way that adopting good habits and doing things incrementally leads to just progress in all areas of your life. By not doing anything, I could have gone backwards, and going backwards is kind of scary to think what would happen there, you know?
Mate, the reason that it's very topical is I was literally showing my brother-in-law the video of you last night.
Which one?
The one where you're sitting there in the rainbow cowboy hat, rainbow cowboy hat.
It was a good hat.
Talking about wanting to change your life that next morning.
Oh, man.
And then the clips to follow of you in the gym, hitting pads, moving around as the fit human being you are now. Because we had just had a conversation around UFC's just been in Sydney.
Yeah.
A mutual mate of my brother-in-law and I, Colby, had his debut in the UFC.
So sick, man. I've been following his journey. That was so inspiring.
He's such a cool guy. He's been on the podcast 2-3 times now, and
honoured to be a guest alongside people like that.
Mate,
that's so mad.
He's a cool man, and we were just talking about, Chris Minns, the Premier of New South Wales, come out and said how important he thinks bringing a sport like that to a city in which there is a growing cohort of young men who are not active and feel purposeless, and they need ways in which they can move their body and look after their health, and they need a sense of purpose and discipline. And and then I was like, actually, I'm interviewing Dave tomorrow, and I feel like there's a beautiful converging moment there where this is the experience that you've had in your own life. You found that at the right time. Yeah.
MMA is 100% that for me. That's what taught me. I mean, you hear a lot of people say the same thing, so I don't want to sound like I'm just recycling every person who's trained in mixed martial arts story, but the discipline that taught me, and how consistently, consistent training or consistent action, consistent problem solving can lead to just rapid self-development. It just made me so addicted to a healthy lifestyle. But when I first started the journey, the one you're talking about with the rainbow cowboy hat, I was just, again, that was small steps. So I was just sorting out my diet first, and then I started going to the gym doing weights, but I'd make a bunch of progress and then I'd fall off, because you can blame it on ADHD, but I blame it on, a lack of discipline when it came to that, because I'd get bored with the weights, and then I'd stack on weight, and then I'd try running, and then I'd get bored with running. And I think ultimately it was just because it wasn't an activity that forced me to really lock in and focus on the one thing. And then I came across mixed martial arts, because I was training at a gym that did MMA, so I'd be around it all the time. I'd see the boys in the cage sparring, and I'd see the guys on the mat rolling around. So I'd see it, I'd be surrounded by it, but I was just doing my weights because I was scared of taking that first step. And then my coach, Shane Parker, Commonwealth Games wrestler, just amazing. I just said to him one day, because I was just hitting the bag, and he came up to me, he's like, jump in the classes, man. You're just punching this punching bag on your own. Like, jump in, learn some stuff. I was like, oh yeah, but I haven't done anything. So we started doing one-on-one sessions, and then I jumped into the classes, and I found out really quickly that MMA was the only thing I could do in my entire day that shut off my brain completely from the noise, which is so weird to think about, because when you're thinking about, someone coming at you and trying to punch you in the face, if you're sparring them, they're kicking you, punching you, you think that that's like the most chaotic part of your day. But for me, that's peaceful, because you can't switch off. Because if you lose your concentration for 1 second, you're going to get popped in the jaw, the nose, anywhere, to be honest. You get hit fucking everywhere if you're me. I'm just a big punching bag most of the time. But it's that level of concentration that allows me to reset whenever I'm training. And just the feelings of progress that you get from doing a sport like MMA, jiu-jitsu, that it can be felt in a really meaningful way, because your first couple of weeks are just hell. You just kind of got to get through those, because They're super humbling. You're getting tapped by people that are literally half your size. But you just got to keep on, take the ego out of it. That's also teaches you so much humility. But then on the other side of it, you come back a month later and you're like, oh, I can defend myself for 2 minutes longer now against these people. And then they choke me out. And then the process continues, but that feeling of progress just becomes a really healthy addiction to have. So purpose-based training is possible for me with MMA, and that's why I think ultimately I was able to sustain a healthy lifestyle and hit these new health goals that I wasn't even really trying to hit. I was just addicted to the progress of something like MMA.
That's a beautiful way of breaking it down.
Yeah.
It's interesting because in the show, Last King of the Cross, that is, there are a bunch of moments where you boys are hitting pads and moving and, there's violence in the show. And I wonder, especially in the very early scenes of season 1, you see the two brothers, John and Sam, hitting pads and training quite a bit in the backyard. And so it doesn't surprise me that there's probably some kind of training history there in both of those actors.
Yep.
Is that where you guys met? That's me taking a wild stab in the dark?
No, well, Lincoln and Claude and stuff. No, I met those guys sort of through the grapevine. So I met Lincoln through Nick, who I do all my Granny Flat stuff with. He was on a TV show with Nick. And Claude, just met him at like a pub after some industry event.
Yeah, okay.
So it wasn't through the show. And we hadn't met each other, like not through training, no.
Okay, so how do you get the call up to go and be involved in season 2?
Well, now I know like the full behind the scenes story, and I won't try and drag it out too much, but it all comes back down to the comedy stuff. So we put out a video that Michael Bublé saw and it got some attention. And
which one was this?
So it was like one of the first videos we put out when we like relaunched Granny Flat, because we've been doing Granny Flat for like 7 years technically, but we've only been doing it consistently as like, a brand on social media for 2. And we made 10 sketches in our first slate. We called it Granny Flat Season 1, and the second one we put out was it was basically just a piss take out of different Australian radio stations, and then the last station that we land on is Smooth FM, and then a Michael Bublé song comes on and we're dissing it. We're like, oh, this is a shit song, and then we start singing along to it, and then we do that thing where we jump out of the car, we do a dance. And we didn't have any followers on TikTok at the time, and I was like, oh, this sketch is probably a bit long to put on TikTok, but I might put the dance scene on TikTok because people like dancing on TikTok. So I uploaded that, and then it started to get a little bit of traction, and at like 1 a.m. Michael Bublé commented on it, wrote "fucking glorious," and I'm like losing my shit. I'm trying to call the boys, and they're not answering because the next day we had a shoot at 6 a.m. So I didn't get a wink of sleep that night. And then the next day we got a message from him inviting us to his Sydney show, because he just so happened to be in Sydney at the exact same time. This is where like fate,
bit of divine information.
Yeah, dude, big time. And invites us to his show. We go to his show. We met him, and he put our skit on the big screen at his Sydney concert at Kudos Bank Arena. And that was the second sketch that we'd put out as soon as we relaunched. Now, to bring it back to getting into Last King, that caught the attention of a writer on the show, and at the time they were like in the early stages of casting and developing season 2. That writer sent it to the producer, so I was on their radar, and they kind of kept an eye on just the comedy stuff. And then I was just doing my day job one day, and I got a call from Lincoln, and Lincoln said, "Hey, dude, if you're interested, there's some people here that are kind of eyeing you off as a potential candidate to lay down an audition for the role of Michael, who plays John Ibrahim's brother in the show, or who's John Ibrahim's brother." And Lincoln plays John in the show, and I was going to be auditioning for that. He was like, "Would you like to audition?" And I was like, yeah. Like, I'd never auditioned for anything before. I didn't have an agent, hadn't done acting classes. All my acting was just learnt through Granny Flat. So I was like, yeah, I'd be dumb to turn that down. It sounds exciting. And so I got put in touch with the casting director and put down the audition and sent it over, waited a couple weeks, and didn't hear anything. And then they came back and they're like, "Oh, we like you, but you look a bit too old for the character," because at the time the character was meant to be 17 years old, and I definitely don't look 17. And so they're like, "Maybe if you shaved your beard." I was like, "Okay." So I shaved my beard for the first time in like 2.5 years, and then put down another audition. Again, bunch of time passed, and all along I wasn't really expecting much, because I don't have any real idea of what the process was at the time, and I assumed with all the weeks going by that I was kind of out of the race. And then I got hit up by the casting director, and he was like, "Oh, can you come in 2 days time to do a callback audition for the producers of the show, the director of the show. You'll do a read with Lincoln, and you're going to do it in front of John Ibrahim." And I was like, "Oh, okay, sure, let's do it." And so that was my first auditioning experience. I go in, it went well. It went quite well, because in the scene we're doing like fake sparring, and just, I guess it was the nerves or something like that. But when you're just locked in, sometimes if you're doing a scene like that with another actor, it can get physical if you're doing sparring. So me and Lincoln were in there, and he was like slapping me for real in front of the team, but it just lended a bit more, I guess, authenticity to the scene. And so I felt it went well, because that kind of took my mind out of, I guess, how daunting the whole situation was. And then again, waited probably like a month and a half, and I was packing up gear to go and shoot a podcast up in Queensland, and got a call from the casting director, and he was like, "How'd you like to play Michael in Last King of the Cross?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'd like that."
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
Isn't that such a testament to, you never know who's watching? Like,
Bro.
In anything you do in your life, if you show up and you give 100% and you're you and you act with some intention, you never know what's going to come from it.
Oh, dude, especially online, man. Like, the amount of people, like the random people that comment on your stuff as well, the people that follow you. Like, you messaged me the other day when we put out that Brett Goldstein had followed us.
Oh,
things like that.
mate,
You just never know
so
that, like,
cool.
your favorite actor from Ted Lasso was watching.
What a show, eh?
Yeah, I love that show so much.
What a great
That's
show.
like the type of show that I dream of making.
It's cool. Well, it's
Yeah.
cool because I don't know, I haven't really watched anything like it.
Yeah.
Where there's like a corniness to it that I like, that I love, that
Yeah, but it's just
gives
a good
me a sense
time.
of comfort.
Yeah.
And I can sit down and watch it. I'm actually like, in between other stuff, if I get like an hour at home and I'm just bumming around, I want to kill some time,
Yeah.
I throw Ted Lasso on.
Oh, of course, yeah.
I love it. And
Yeah.
his character, Roy, is so unique.
Roy Keane's so good, dude.
Is he based off Roy Keane?
100%.
Yeah.
10,000%, yes. And I was like obsessed with Roy Keane. I read his book growing up and everything like that as well. So maybe that's why I like the character so much. But yeah, dude.
Do you like Shrinking?
Shrinking?
Have you watched Shrinking?
No.
Bro, you seriously haven't watched Shrinking?
Are you putting me on some...
Brett Goldstein was also a writer on Shrinking.
Oh gosh, don't put that out.
Acts in the next...
Yeah, I love Shrinking. Shrinking's great. Brett Goldstein's writing in it, second to none. What a show.
It's amazing. It's great. It's got Jason Segel.
Yep.
Harrison Ford.
Yep. Oh wait, no, I have heard of this, but I haven't watched it.
Brilliant. Really good show. You'd
I'll
enjoy
watch
it.
that after the 5 things I'm meant to be watching.
Yeah,
right
at
now.
the moment.
Yeah.
The life of an actor, hey?
Is it? I don't know what the life of an actor's meant to look like. I'm just trying to get through a show, man. I find it hard to get through shows.
So season 2 is finished.
Yeah.
Brilliant season, by the way.
Thank
Do we have
you.
a season 3 coming?
I can't say nothing about that.
Okay.
I'm optimistic about a season 3. I think I can say that. Look, season 2 was received really well. But I'm just taking it as it comes. I'm just still grateful just to have the opportunity for season 2. If we get a season 3, I'm saying yes, and I'm doing it with a bunch of gratitude in my heart. But look, it went well, so
Very exciting.
Fingers
I'm
crossed.
excited for
But
you. I got
yeah,
my fingers crossed for you too.
yeah,
It's interesting because I think if I was in your position right now, I can imagine that if the acting thing was the only thing you were doing, when I say the acting thing, I mean being a part of a show, there would be then a bit of an anxiety that comes after you wrap a season where you're like, well, what's next? But the fact that you've got Granny Flat and there's so much happening there, like, mate, if people haven't come across Granny Flat, I've been showing a lot of people, right? And I send out all the videos because I genuinely love them. Like, they're very funny, right? And it takes a bit to get a laugh out of me on social media because I think social media is so full of different stuff now and different sketches and, you know, especially in Australia, off the back of the success of a group like Inspired Unemployed, there's been a lot of people who have seen there's a successful sketch model on Instagram there. You guys have kind of taken it to this new level where your production's really high quality. And I know you even make behind the scenes of the making videos because you guys obviously care about cinematography and
big time,
and putting something together. But it's been a question on my mind, like, how the fuck do you get Katy Perry to sit down and be silly with you on camera, or Michael Bublé to get in bed with you and Nick, and to do all of this stuff? Because it's one thing to have that kind of hit sketch with Michael Bublé because he's seen something on social and he's in Sydney and great, let's have some fun. But there's a bit of time that goes into making a video like that.
Massively. I think it comes down to just the probably just the care we put into our content. A lot of the stuff and a lot of the stuff is so good, and I'm not saying a blanket statement like, you know, people shooting stuff on their iPhones is of a lesser quality, because that's absolutely not true. And there's just so many people that are just killing it online at the moment. But we know that as we enter this landscape, you know, we're two dudes and we're popping online. You mentioned Inspired Unemployed before. There's so many people that have done this and they've done it fantastic. If we're coming to the party, what are we bringing that's different? Or, you know, if we're going to take up 3 minutes of someone's Sunday with a piece of content, how can we make it different to everything else that they've seen that day? And that's by just doing us. So, you know, we come from a filmmaking background. We're in the industry. Also, Granny Flat is myself, Nick, and Michelangelo. So Michael is our cinematographer. So he's the guy that makes everything look the way it looks. He works with Benny. So it's like we've got Michael and Benny. They're behind the camera. And just as a team, we're all so focused on making good quality content, making cinematic content. And on social media, you have some people overseas like Almost Friday. In Australia, you have people like Auntie Donna that have done this stuff before. But we just have our own voice and our own abilities and strengths. And it comes back to us just really wanting to make good shit. And when you have people like, you know, Michael Bublé, or you're pitching to them, like with Michael Bublé, we put out the sketch and he just enjoyed it. And then we were going back and forth with him, and then we floated the idea of, oh, while you're in Australia, you want to make something? And he's an anomaly as well. Like, you have to acknowledge the fact that you could be dealing with any celebrity and they might not be as receptive to just doing something fun as Michael Bublé is. He's just an absolute teddy bear of a man. And he's just so wonderful that he used his platform to put us on at the time when we had maybe 1,000 followers or something, or if that. So he saw our stuff, and I think he just saw that we were legit, or that we weren't taking the piss. And he's like, okay, well, you know, I'd give my time, knowing that I can trust these guys to make something that's not, you know, trash.
Well, not only did he give you your time, but he lied in bed with you, and then his
wife as well did
in the video at the end.
Crazy. I mean, that was his suggestion as well. So, but that's also his fantastic comedic mind coming to the party. Like, he's a comedic genius. He's not just a Christmas album. Like, he's a remarkable person, and we are so in debt to that guy. Like, he put us on the map, and then that leads to getting the attention of other people, including our management that we have now. And now it's about basically making sure that every week we're putting out content that we're proud of, that's of a certain level of quality. So then when you have Katy Perry coming to town for the AFL Grand Final, you can pitch for 15 minutes of her time to jump in this sketch made by these guys who make content like this. So we put together like a pitch package. We go to her with an idea as well to show that we're prepared, ready to go. And then a team come back to us and say, she's got a tight schedule. You've only got 15 minutes. We're like, okay, how do we do this? But we use our problem solving skills as a unit of filmmakers to be like, okay, we can get all of Katy Perry's shots in 15 minutes, and then we can shoot all of our coverage for 2 more hours once she's gone, you know. But I think ultimately it comes down to just our point of difference being that we try and make cinematic content and prioritize filmmaking and quality over quantity, which in some ways does stunt our growth on social media, where quantity is kind of the dominant secret sauce to growing, you know.
Yes. And I do want to point out for the audience that your camera guy, Michael Angelis, not to be confused with Michael Angelo, who
I mean, they both make art,
David,
baby.
Just a different era, just in case if anyone was wondering.
Dude, it might be Michelangelo reborn. Who knows?
You never know until we get him on a
maybe not to be confused with the Ninja Turtle as well, bro.
This is true.
You like the Ninja Turtles?
But have you ever seen them in the same room? That joke's been told a million times, so
damn.
I feel bad about using it. But I guess one of the
things...
He
might hang out in the sewers. Sorry, continue.
I guess one of the things that is interesting to ask, because I can see by your passion for it and how excited you get talking about it, and not only that, but the consistency of really good quality work, that the goal in this is to make really good stuff because you love the craft. Very similar to the motivation of why we're sitting here in this room today, because I love the art of conversation.
Yeah.
But one thing I've learned over
the way.
Thank you. Yeah. Cheers. Well, one of the things I've learned over the last 5 years, which has been a challenging lesson to learn, is conversation is great, but this at some point becomes a business where you've got to, you know, it's not free to sit in the room with a bunch of expensive bits of equipment and to take that time out of your day and to get other people on board to help.
Yeah.
How do you turn something like Granny Flat into something that can be commercial to keep you all doing it?
A work in progress, but the answer is growth. We just need to grow. I mean, the avenues for revenue come in the form of brand deals, ad monetization. So you got to grow on YouTube, which we're still trying to do. YouTube's kind of the destination for our content.
Bit of a fickle beast, though, isn't it?
Big time. Because like on TikTok and Instagram, the way our content is, you see that much of that much. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, look, it ultimately comes down to the more we grow, the more opportunities, and that comes in the form of more opportunities for collaboration and more opportunities for financial collaborations and like monetization for different avenues. And look, in terms of the business, it's still a work in progress, man. We are well and truly in the red as a unit in terms of the hours we've put in. But I also look at it this way. We have been doing this for 2 years on a full-time basis, and we don't get paid we don't get paid for what we do. We're working a full-time job without making money from it. Now we're starting to make a bit of money as we grow. So these opportunities come in. You do like a brand deal with Spotify. That's one that we did recently that we're really excited about. But ultimately, we also have to split it 3 ways. So for it to become a reality that we do this full-time, which is the ultimate dream, it's just going to take time. But for us to get there, we have to keep being consistent. So there's a lot of radical optimism that goes into what we do, but just, you know, focusing on what our goals are and then reverse engineering how to get there. So, you know, if we want to get to 500,000 followers, it's like, how do we act right now the way that we need to get to that milestone?
I love this.
Yeah.
This is really cool. So I want to pull on the thread.
I'm so sorry if I jumped away from your question there. I feel like I might have gone off a tiny tangent.
You answered it. You answered it, which I think is certainly... It's refreshing to hear, because this is the challenge of...
Oh, yeah, dude. I'm not going to sit here and bullshit and be like, we're making the bag. Like, nah.
It's the challenge of my existence, so I get it. I'm really interested in... When you talk about that belief structure of acting as though you have 500,000 because that's what it's going to take to attract, like those efforts and that quality is what it's going to take to attract that kind of audience. it is really challenging at this point in what you're doing, and I feel it, like I can resonate here just in a different world, is that there is probably a lot of people from the outside that are like, you're hilarious, this is great, but that's not a real job, right? You know, you getting to hang out with Katy Perry and make videos isn't a real job to a lot of people, right? And so there's this challenging point that you have as the creator, or as the artist, as Stephen Pressfield talks about, where you have to show up with such positivity and optimism, because anything short of that, like I'm a huge believer that any limiting belief you hold as a person due to your imperfect nature and the imperfect conditions of life will find a way to be confirmed.
Yeah.
You know, like if you believe that it's a slim chance we ever turn this into something where we can do it as a full-time job, you will stumble upon some kind of financial challenge or a hurdle in which you go, limiting belief confirmed, it's over. So you have to be so blind and delusional to the fact that it's going to be challenging and it's a slim probability for most people to do this in order to reach that kind of height. Yeah. It's why people say crazy and genius are next door neighbors and they borrow each other's sugar. Because it's kind of the reality of doing anything like this.
Oh, yeah, no, I get that 100%. But the probability thing you were saying before, and this is where my optimism might, you know, become obvious. But like the probability, you can also make it more probable that you're going to be successful by surrounding yourself with the right people and also putting in the work. So it might not be super probable if, you know, you're not putting the work in that's required and you're surrounding yourself with people that aren't like-minded, that aren't on the same page, that don't believe in what you're building. But we're fortunate because we're surrounded from the ground up by... So myself, Nick, Michael, Ben, we're aligned from the very beginning when we had no following or anything, that together as a unit we could do something really cool. And we started to see the proof of that through getting the attention of people like Michael Bublé, being able to be in the same room as Jack Black, do a thing with Katy Perry, and then also just having the growth of an audience that now comes back every week and comments on our stuff. Like that's reassuring enough for us to go, okay, this is working, what we're doing. But then that's when hard work comes in. It's like, okay, now we have to keep doing the thing. And the longer we keep doing the thing, I think the probability that we're going to crack it, it becomes more likely. The odds get better for us to really make a living out of this thing the longer we stand the test of time. Because I mean, if it was easy, everyone would do it. That's what they say. But truthfully, there's no shortcuts for the way that we make our content. There's no easy way of getting done what we get done, and that's what I love about it, because it makes the rewards so much sweeter. But going back really quickly to the money thing, or like making a living out of it, I also see, because I said something before, I'm like, we're in the red, but technically we are really in the green because of the people that we get in our videos. If you think about how much it would have cost to get 2 hours of Michael Bublé's time, to get Katy Perry in our content, like, we ain't got any of that money. But the fact that we can afford these opportunities through our content, through the sacrifices, through those unpaid hours, but those unpaid hours lead to doors opening, and to get into these rooms, that's priceless.
I think about this all the time.
Yeah.
5 years of this, you get to meet some brilliant people.
Yeah, man. And it's led to stuff for you, right?
For sure. It's led to great opportunity, but it's also led to great friendships. Like, just before you're here today, Zach is one of my best mates.
So cool.
We met on a podcast.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's all of these moments and inflection points in your life where you look back and you go, well, if success is determined by financial profit, well, then your opportunities to be successful in life as a whole become quite lean. Mm-hmm. And that looks like something that has to be quite linear. Yep. Otherwise, you feel like you're going backwards.
Big time.
Where if you open it up to... And it's true, there is the biggest cliche in any kind of business or opportunity space is, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Who you know, yeah.
And so if there's any truth to that, building these rich connections with people who are incredibly talented in their field of entertainment, you're winning.
Yeah. Yeah,
Which is so cool.
That is gospel. It comes down to like, and now we're with a wonderful management group. So like their expertise, our managers, they're wonderful and they amplify what we do. But then like our network of people, the people that we get in our sketches week to week, like we're in this industry that we're in, we're able to call upon some really, really A-class talent that we're just friends with now because of what we've been doing, either inside Granny Flat or outside Granny Flat. It kind of works both ways. Like right now, Nick's shooting for Artful Dodger Season 2, and he's going to be on that, and then he might come back 2 weeks later and be like, oh, by the way, someone on set was saying that they like our content, and then they end up jumping in a sketch,
Mate, it's so cool because I made a comment out of pocket before that the Australian film industry and arts entertainment industry has felt like it has lacked a little bit to the US. And to a degree, for a long time, there was probably a lack of opportunity because we weren't making as much in Australia as we are now. But
comes down to funding and stuff like that as well.
It's funding, but then you look at social, the barrier to entry now is if you get a very talented group of people together who want to make some stuff and have a creative vision, the barrier to entry is lower, which means if you can convert and do a really good job of it, you have opportunity and you have spotlight. And that's what the industry's probably needed here, where I look now, I even see guys like Russell Crowe who seem to be making a lot of stuff back in Australia and are bringing projects back home. Yeah. That's really cool because I've had a very eager eye on the talent space in Australia because I bring those people on the show to chat. Yeah. And I just noticed there's more brilliant people popping up all the time. And I'm like, it's great for me. Yeah. There's more interesting people to talk to. But it's also great for any kid who's at school in Australia who goes, man, I want to be an actor or I want to be in the comedy space. And 5 years ago, they didn't feel like there was a major opportunity to do that. Yeah. Kind of does now.
Yeah, there's more visibility to the possibilities.
Correct. It's the 4-minute mile. The 4-minute mile was impossible to break until somebody did. And then I think in the next year, there's another 8 people who broke a 4-minute mile. Yeah. We are all egged on by other people's success.
I am. Yeah, like that. I only did it because... Well, that wasn't the only reason I did it, but like just seeing all those things.
You're talking about your 4-minute mile.
Yeah, my 4-minute mile. Yeah, man. I piss bolt, dude. I go so quick. But yeah, like I'm so inspired by most of the people I'm inspired by are honestly my friends. Just seeing what they do because the proximity of me to them, and then seeing what they've done, I'm like, this feels possible because it's tangible. If I can hug my buddy and my buddy's doing all this crazy shit, then I can do it as well. Everything's within arm's reach as long as you're doing the work and you're doing it in the right way.
Can I tell you a story?
Tell me a story, dude.
So a couple of years ago, I had Hugh Sheridan on the podcast. Yep. And filmed a great podcast. He's I don't know if you've ever met Hugh. No. Such a lovely guy. We had such a great chat. Got on like a house on fire at his apartment in Bondi. Mm-hmm. At the time, I didn't have really like a core studio set up, so I just travelled to everyone. And we filmed this podcast, and we'd gotten on good, and we're sitting there just chatting, and he said, hey, listeners of the podcast may have heard this before, but I'm going to indulge you.
Please.
He said, hey, I was supposed to just go and read lines with another actor, but they've just messaged me saying they can't be here. He goes, what are you doing? Yeah. And I was like, I was just going to have a coffee. So if you're asking me to come and read lines... I'm keen. Like that sounds like fun. You're down. And so we met up at this cafe in Bondi. Look, it was packed. It was like, I think it was like April, sunny day, people everywhere, last 2 seats left. We sit down and he's like, I'll buy you lunch and let's go through these scripts. So we had 2 scripts. One was for a rom-com that got made by Netflix and it was kind of cliche love story. Yep. Guy and gal accidentally double book accommodation, have a dispute about who's going to stay there. They decide, well, we can't get anything else. We may as well stay the night. They start to fall in love and, that's the story. And so I read the lines for the woman. Yep. Hugh was going for the male's role.
Do you feel like you fit the role well?
I bodied it.
Yeah.
I bodied it.
Yeah.
You know, if Julia Roberts wasn't available, there's every chance that I get that call.
Yeah.
You know?
That's good to know. If I need a line reader, I can hit you up.
Yeah. If you ever need a line reader to play the female lead in a rom-com,
then you're the guy for it.
Yeah. I'm the guy just to warm the lines up.
Yeah, got you.
But then we sat down and read for season 2 of Tiger King. Stan did a Tiger King style series in which Hugh was going for the part of playing Brian's ex-husband in these flashback moments, and I had to read Joe Exotic's lines.
Yeah.
So much fun, man. I had a blast, like, threw the accent on, had a good crack, and I left going, that's fun.
Yeah.
I think had I've in my earlier life done a little bit more, like I was always a kid who wanted to get up in front of the class and be a goose and have fun. And
are you saying that you're thinking of going into acting?
I'm not saying that I'm thinking of going into acting because I've got so many hobbies.
Yeah.
But I think that it's such a fun game to be able to play with stories and characters. And you jokingly before asked if I have ADHD. I have fascinations that pop up in my life where I'm really fascinated with a certain style of person and or a certain theme or topic.
That's a great trait to have.
It's a great trait to have, and I actually think it's probably a trait that a lot of actors embody because they can sink their teeth into a role and a storyline for a certain period of time, and then kind of by the point they become bored with it, they move on to the next thing. You kind of can't really do that in your life. Well, you can try, but if you do that in your real life, it can kind of be disastrous, right?
Guess so, yeah.
And I don't feel that in my own life, but I feel it with work, right? And the podcast is a great outlet to do that. But do you feel that as an actor now? Do you call yourself an actor?
It's interesting. It's still something that I'm sort of getting used to, because it took a while to even be able to just like own that as my occupation, even if it was just when I was, on set. Just because
why do you think that is?
Well, because I went to film school. My original path wasn't the one of the traditional actor. Like I got out of I did like acting stuff when I was in high school, and I loved it. And looking back on it now, that was always my love. Like performance, bringing characters to life, seeing the reaction of an audience. That's what I love. But I think I was always just a little bit afraid of stepping outside of my comfort zone, at least at that point in my life. So I went to film school and just thought that my path was going to be writing, directing. So I did 3 years at AFTRS, 4 years, because I had to repeat my final year of film school. Because I didn't hand in an assignment, dude. It's fucking bullshit. But like, anyway, what was I saying?
You were saying you weren't going to be in front of the camera.
Yeah, right. Because that was my comfort zone. And whilst I was doing all that stuff and I was studying at film school, I was working and creating like web series with Nick. And well, just to look at Nick had been hard out at this hustle since he was like 11 years old. And he'd been, going to acting classes after school. And then he gets into NIDA, the best dramatic acting school in Australia. Sorry to anyone who went to WAPA or VCA. But, he went there and he cut his teeth there. And then I met all the people that were in his cohort. And I see how hard these people work and the sacrifices that a lot of these actors make, and the effort that goes into honing your craft. And then for me to kind of, take on the name of, or like the job title of actor was kind of hard because I hadn't done the acting classes. I'd worked my ass off in like parallel paths, in the filmmaking world. So I was always adjacent to what they were doing. But, I hadn't done like, the stuff. I hadn't studied the techniques. I hadn't spent hours doing what they were doing to get to where they are. So it took me a while to be like, yeah, I can do this as well. And that just came down to me just having to stifle that doubt. But when it comes now to whether I consider myself an actor, like yeah, for sure. I think probably like a creator is probably more conducive I don't know if that's the word, but like to what I do, because I spend most of my week editing. To be honest, I spend most of my time editing for Granny Flat, but I write, I produce, I direct, then I act in our sketches. But there's a lot of things that go into what I do, and I do auditions and stuff like that. But I think until it starts going, I book job to job to job. Like it kind of, at least right now, it doesn't feel like I'm a full-time actor. But
What do you think? Like, is there a role that you'd love to play?
Oh, yeah, dude.
Well, what would, I guess, the next step from a Michael Ibrahim style role to?
Or like
what's next?
to be like the realistic step, or what I want to do.
Like what you want to do.
What I want to do is Spider-Man.
I like it. Tom Holland. You're a great bloke.
I think I have to be the villain though. Oh. I can't imagine me in a Spider-Man outfit, dude.
You can't.
Nah. Oh man, I mean, I've worn them many times, so I know what I look like in them. Like last week, probably.
Okay.
I'd say.
That's good.
And I could wear one this afternoon if I really wanted to, so I can get my fix.
Yeah.
No, but like I'd love to. I mean, the dream role would 100% be. All jokes aside, I'd like to be in something like really stylistic, something sci-fi, or something like heightened, not heightened text, but like thinking like Lord of the Rings. I want to be in something that's like a spectacle, and something that fosters a community of fans, and
you want people rocking up at Comic-Con dressed as you,
bro. That would be crazy.
Yeah.
That's like more what I want to do. A lot of people would say that they want to be in, like the more grounded stuff, but I don't know if that's necessarily my strength. I'd like to play like a Viking or something like that. Just something ridiculous that shoots for like 8 months in Finland or something like that,
Bro, this is actually tapping into a recent fascination of mine. So the jury's out on AI, for me anyways, on like the different places that AI will replace real life stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that I've really appreciated about AI is there's a page on TikTok and Instagram. I think it's on Insta as well. I can't remember the name of it. Something like Timeless Traveler or Time Traveler.
I've seen this. This is the first person.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of basically an AI generated
like people
scene
living
of
in Pompeii and stuff like that.
Yeah, it'll be like you're a Viking for a day.
Yeah.
In this era.
Yeah.
I don't even know what era the Vikings were, but mate, I watch Vikings and Travis Fimmel. I just wanted to sit on the edge of a cliff and sharpen my axe for a couple of months while I was sitting on my lounge in my pajamas.
Yeah.
With a bit of chocky. So. Like, I find that stuff fascinating. And I guess that's what we're talking about before, the interest that you can just tap into a role and embody what it would be like to be that person.
So sick. Maybe that's why I can't think of actor as a job title just yet, because it's so much fun.
Who's your
favourite? It
favourite?
doesn't feel like work. My favourite actor? Well, it bleeds into off-screen as well, but I just love Matthew McConaughey. Well, it just comes down to who would I want to like meet?
He's cool, eh?
Him, Jim Carrey. I just love their outlook on life and the way that they just go about their shit.
Did you read Green Lights?
I did.
It's great, eh?
I love that book.
Great book.
Yeah, man. He's such an interesting fellow. He'd definitely be at the dinner that, you have people ask you like what the 3 people, who you'd want to have dinner with. It would be McConaughey for sure.
I don't know if you've seen, he was recently on a guy that would be at my dinner at the moment, Chris Williamson's podcast. And there was a quote that he said that I just think was bloody beautiful. He said,
"Hear me.
Life is a science, a mystery going forward, and a science looking back." And I just feel like that really embodied his book. Like looking forward, it's just a mystery what's coming next and how you're going to navigate what you're experiencing. But when you look back, you can string it together and go, "Oh, it all makes sense."
Yeah.
That's how I ended up.
See, he says really simple stuff and little.
It sounds sexy.
Yeah,
and
does.
the voice helps. The voice definitely helps.
It's phenomenal.
Like if I said half of that stuff, people would probably listen to it on the podcast right now. Like, fucking hell, you're right.
See, this is the self-talk thing happening again. You're doing this before the podcast.
Yeah. You've
got a great voice, bro. You can't sell yourself short like that. That's not good.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
What's your favourite movies?
Well, I keep saying Spider-Man, dude. But I swear I'm not just watching Spider-Man, but well, I just love the stuff that affects me and I have memories with. So the reason that I said Spider-Man was that was my first ever, the original trilogy with Tobey Maguire. That was my first ever experience in a movie. And I remember I left that movie being like, I want to be a better person. I want to be a fucking superhero. Mm-hmm. And that was just looking back on it. I'm like, well, that's the profound effect that you can have on people. So when I say that I'd like to be part of these projects that like foster community and like affect people worldwide, like the real kicker that I get out of doing anything, this is why I love putting stuff out online. Same reason why you put stuff out and you love seeing those comments where people are like, oh, you made my day, or you brightened up my day for a second, something like that. I just like moving people and that sort of thing. Coming back to your question, I'm getting sidetracked because I'm passionate about that part. Favorite movie is Spider-Man because that made me feel like that. I love Forrest Gump. I like, that's the movie that I always cry, bro. I cry so hard during that movie. Again, that's just because how it made me feel afterwards. I just felt like I've been hit by a truck.
Can I ask you? Let me ask you something. Let's pause for a second before you give me the rest of them.
Yeah.
That's something that has been... I had a conversation with someone recently who's in the literary world. Yeah. And she was saying that it's her goal to make... for the stuff that she works on, to make people really feel something. And I feel that's been a little bit lost in the world that we exist in now, because everything now, maybe not so much creatively in the movie, film, TV world, but a lot of what comes out of podcast studios like this, and, you know, I can be guilty of this at times too, is kind of boiled down to you got to give people practical takeaway, or you got to change their life in some kind of practical manner. But I just think we've lost something for just making people feel something. Yeah. Because most of the things that people need to go and live the better life that they could lead, or to reach their full potential, whatever that means, they already know. Yeah. They just need to feel something.
Yeah, but the feelings can lead to the practical stuff.
Well, the feeling is the catalyst.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Because it makes you feel like there's a reason that you were affected by that.
For sure.
Because you know there's something in you that made you feel.
Yeah.
And so I really like what you're leaning on here. I think that is the beauty of movie and film world and all of that. That, like, all my favourite movies made me feel something. Yeah.
So that's what it comes down to. I mean, I don't know how critically acclaimed all the above were, but actually no, they were. Forrest Gump won a bunch of Oscars, and Spider-Man was great. Spider-Man 2 was critically acclaimed. Sorry if I'm just nerding out for a second there, but it was. And I like Spider-Man 3 as well, even though people shout on it. It's a good movie. So the story of Sandman was a tragic one.
Sandman. I can't remember who played Sandman.
I don't know what his name was, but all I know is that he just wanted the best for his daughter. And he just kept getting fucked over, dude. Well, when you get turned into a sand monster, it doesn't help.
It's not a practical way to live your life, is it? But here we go again, talking about what's...
He could have done it better. No, anyway, next question, dude. What the fuck?
I love one of my favourite movies. It ebbs and flows out of the top spot, but Catch Me If You Can.
Oh, Hectic.
Great movie.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in so long, but I remember I watched that and it made me feel something.
I love a movie that's based on a true story.
Yeah.
Because when it's done really well, it makes you feel like the opportunities of life are endless. You know, that's
so did you feel like you could perform identity theft?
Well, I thought about it. There was a period in which I thought, you know, I'm currently a real estate agent. Is it much worse? Probably. Dude. Probably not. Yeah. You know, people would probably like me just as much. I'm already working an uphill battle, so why not have some life adventure?
If you could steal anyone's identity, who would it be?
This is going to sound so cheesy.
Yeah.
I really like my life. So...
Hectic.
That's
better self-talk.
Yeah. You know, I was sitting there... I like to be self-deprecating because it's fun.
Yeah, no.
But I'm a very optimistic and positive guy. And one of the things that I say this all the time because I would be lying if I say I don't feel at times envy. I definitely don't feel jealousy, but I feel envy because I'm so driven and motivated as a person to be achieving the things that I want to. And I've got big goals and big dreams for my life. And there's sometimes I look at people in my space who've just figured it out. Yeah. Right? And they're on a winning streak. And I'm happy for them, but I feel this sense of, I want that for me too. Yeah. But then I remind myself, and the greatest come back to reality and appreciation moment for me is, man, I feel so blessed. Like, I'm surrounded by the best people. Like, my fiance, this is where this answer comes in.
Go.
We just got a dog. His name's Barney. He's a golden cocker spaniel.
Hell yeah, named after the dinosaur?
Actually, you know what? Like, funnily enough, yeah.
Hectic.
But we've got nicknames for him. Barnes,
Yeah.
Jimmy Barnes, Barnes and Nobles, Barnacles.
Of course you do.
Not Barnaby. We've decided that that's just not an option.
Yeah, it doesn't go with it.
But
We just got a dog.
I was looking at him the other day, and I said to Soph, you know what? I kind of hope reincarnation's a thing, because if reincarnation's a thing, I would love to come back as 2 little puppies who aren't from the same family. We get bought by the same owner, and you and I just get to be in love in the house with no responsibilities and just hang out in the sun and chase a ball together.
Dude.
And just fucking hang.
Bro, that's the cutest shit I'm going to hear today, tomorrow, and the whole week. I'm such a fan of that.
You know, like...
Yeah, bro, you don't want to replace your life for anything.
So
if you got that feeling,
yeah,
man.
that's who
I'm
I
going to find
would-
my puppy sibling one day, I reckon.
Yeah, or... I don't think
That's
of
probably
it as
Nick, to
sibling.
be honest.
I don't think of it as sibling. Maybe Nick could be a puppy sibling. For
Oh,
me,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
more like
We always rip each other's heads
the
off.
puppy from next door who comes over and we can be in love without
Yeah.
being weird.
Yeah.
So
That's so nice,
yeah.
man. That's
the way I
that was
think
a
of it.
beautiful thing to say.
That's the way I think of it. But I certainly look at people's lives and I have fascination for the way that they get to live. And I wouldn't say that there's so many elements of my life that are great right now. Like, I have a great home life, great people,
Yep.
great health, a lot of things to be blessed for. But my current working situation isn't my ideal. And I ebb and flow between, you know, one of my other jobs outside of this is I do keynote speaking.
I can totally see that.
And I love that, and I really enjoy it because you talk about where you can see people being affected, and for you it's through making people laugh and feel excited about a piece of content or a sketch that you've made or a series that you're in. For me, being able to share stories and experiences of my life that have led to lessons that have done something valuable for me, and share that with other people. And when you see people in the crowd emotional and affected and moved by it, it is really special. It's actually a very hard feeling to explain, because I often leave gigs, like I've left schools before and cried on the way home because I'm like, I think we saved kids' lives today. And that's a
Very
cool
good
feeling.
chance that you could have, man. Especially, yeah, if you're doing it to schools. I remember there was a guy who used to come into our school and give talks. And every time he'd come in, I'd get so G'd up to be a better person. That's a very, like, malleable, you know, that's an age where you can be so easily influenced. And if you got someone who's a positive influence coming in and talking to you, it's super powerful. Like, the fact that you're able to do that for people, I think is priceless, man.
It's a really special opportunity, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, when I'm doing that, I'm often talking about a lot of the key themes of my life experience, which is with my health. If you can have a good perspective on, no matter how challenging it is, the things that you need to do to move forward positively. And that's not to say that it doesn't suck at times and it's not challenging, but if you choose to see it as just sucking and just challenging, you don't move forward. You're stuck. And so there's times when I want to have a whinge about my current work situation, and I go, man, are you a phony? Because, you know, you get on stage, you need to talk to people about the importance of perspective. But I think part of the gift of getting older is that you realize it's okay to feel like not everything has to feel positive.
No.
But the quicker you can put yourself in a positive mental frame to go, that's all right though, I'm going to move forward and I'm just going to work towards the kind of reality that I want, is, I think, the goal of anyone, right?
100%.
Or at least it should kind of be.
Yeah.
You should be kind of trying to move towards a life in which you feel more fulfilled.
Yeah. Just take the steps in that direction for sure.
I put out a story the other day, just out of curiosity, like a poll in which I asked people, are you scared of dying with regret? And it was disproportionately answered yes.
100%, yes.
And I think that, I love that it was, because I think that you should be. And I think that you should be moved and inspired to go and live a life that's fulfilling to you, however that looks. different for everyone. But like,
That was my rainbow cowboy hat moment.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That
There,
was
like
the
there has
exact
to be
moment.
something that you feel around the fact that, especially I think people our age. How old are you?
26.
26. I'm 28.
Yeah.
And I think people around our age are still kind of naive to the fact that you don't have forever.
Yeah.
Because usually at this age, your health is still in pretty good tact, and you feel like you've got some opportunity.
But you never know what's going to happen, man.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's really exciting when I get to sit down with people like yourself who are living, breathing examples of doing life and having a good time while you're at it. Because I think it inspires a lot more people than you realise.
That's really nice the way you put that, bro. But it is hard though. There's obviously it's. I get to enjoy what I do, but what I do is also not easy, and that comes with things like sacrifice, lonely nights, all that stuff. Sometimes leads to disconnection between certain people who aren't aligned with your life, things like that. Like it is tricky. It's not just like you get to a point where everything becomes sparkling. It's kind of like the same way that you're talking about how your relationship, you got a new dog, it's all perfect, but then you're talking about how there's something that's not quite where you want it to be in your work life. I don't think if we were complete, then if the road to progress was just done, everything would just be so much less boring. Having something to strive towards. Now I'm turning into McConaughey because that's what he says. He's like, I need someone to keep on chasing. Bro, I know his whole Oscars
My
speech.
hero was me in 5 years.
Bro, that whole... It's me in 5 years.
You actually do a good McConaughey.
Then you ask me where I'm going to be in 5 years. You come to me in 5 years. Are you a hero yet? Not even close.
You do a good close.
Dude,
Yeah.
not even close.
Do you
I'm never
practice
going to be
that
my
stuff a lot?
hero. What? The McConaughey thing?
Just
in high school, I did.
Just riffing on, because I guess you're in the comedy space, right? Like, do you just riff on people and try to get down their personalities and play with their voices? And
Not as much now. When I used to be obsessed with doing impressions of people. I haven't done impressions in a while. Like, I'll try to do an impression every now and then, but like...
What's one of your favourites, go? Off the cuff, we won't judge you for it.
Who is one of my favorites, bro? Man, I haven't done them in so long. Nah, they're all tragic, man.
Okay.
They're all tragic. I used to do Conor McGregor, but like he's fucked up now.
Mate,
so
he's had a fucking...
yeah, I'm not even gonna do his accent. There's better impressions to do than him at this current time.
Would you do stand up? Have you done stand up?
Gonna do it. Shit scared of it. But I was talking to Andrew Hamilton today. Like I was saying that I was with him before, and I brought that up to him because it's a natural progression for me. But at the same time, like my focus right now is on sketch comedy because I love the process of writing. I love the process of playing around, improvising on set when we're filming, and then editing as well. Being able to put together the most tight version of that original vision. And all the stuff that you filmed, how do you make the best puzzle out of those pieces? But I'm talking to Andrew, and Andrew's telling me how in his first year of comedy, to cut his teeth, he did like 268 shows. So there's commitment that comes with getting to a point of proficiency in that craft. And I absolutely want to do it. It's just I don't have a whole lot of time right now, and also within that, there's a lot of fear because it's a thing. It's live theater, man. It's a live show. You're there. At least if I make a sketch and put it online and it's not funny, I can't hear the crickets.
Yeah.
But
it's less brutal.
it's confronting. So but that's something that I love, and I have been feeling more compelled these days to run towards the uncomfortable thing.
I ask because I think it's interesting that anytime you're trying to get really good at a craft, the more reps you get, the easier it is to polish yourself. And like for me, I don't get the opportunity to get on stage as often as I'd like.
Yeah.
So anytime an opportunity comes up to MC something, or like I do fight nights, I'll announce fight nights.
That's sick.
For different boxing events, and I've got one coming up in 2 weeks, and it's always fun because I'm like, it's a different skill.
Yeah.
But there's still a shared element of I'm in front of a crowd, and my job is to make them as entertained as possible, and to make their experience here better.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I don't get to go to a keynote, but I get to go watch some fights, eat a schnitzel in between, and speak to an audience
Fills up
and
that
get them
cup a little
fired
bit.
up, it's a rep that I wouldn't have got
Yeah.
had I just sat at home.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's interesting in a space where the sketch stuff, there are so many moving pieces. It's not like you're making content every day. You're working on content every day, but you're not exactly in the zone in which you're writing,
you're
acting.
fulfilling a different aspect of
Yes.
creating that thing, but you're not doing the thing every day. Yeah, no, I get what you mean. We'll get there. We'll do it, and I'll invite you to the
100%.
show.
You should, because I'd love to
I'll
come.
make you laugh, motherfucker. I'll make you laugh. And if you don't, I don't know. I'll have to go Michael on you or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which nobody wants you to go Michael on.
Yeah. Nah, probably not.
What's your thoughts on the colour green? You wore prison greens for a little bit.
Green, I like that. I say this, and this is a very materialistic thing, but I do greens. I love green. Green's great. I don't know why I'm trying to get deep with it, but this just comes to my mind. Might be my ADHD acting up, but I want to have a matte olive green supercar. That's like,
You're a car guy.
not really. I don't know what they are. I just like that's just something. Might be like my childish version of what, like when I was younger, like that was something I wanted to have. That's obviously most definitely not my definition of success now, but like I'd like to have a green sports car.
I'll actually indulge you in a response here that I think would be good for your psyche here.
Cool.
So I'm fascinated by a guy named Rory Sutherland, an ad and marketing genius from the UK. And I was listening to him on a podcast just recently. Do you know Alex O'Connor, Cosmic Skeptic?
No, that stuff wigs me out, bro. I'm so scared.
Brilliant creator. Very off topic for him to have a guy like Rory Sutherland on his show, but he did. One of my favourite podcasts I've listened to.
Sick.
In like a year or so. And I listened to this episode, and Rory is a big consumerist, because if you're in that ad and marketing world, you want to encourage people to spend and be involved in dabbling in products and trying things and market feedback. And he said that he actually thinks it's a great act of philanthropy to buy a new car, because in 5 years' time, when you sell that car, you'll be selling it to someone for a major discount. Yeah. And it keeps people in cars and society moving forward. So I think that if you want that matte green olive supercar, you are doing a real service to humanity.
Not supercar. I think supercar's like a bit too expensive. I'm talking like just a sports car. Supercar's like a fucking Bugatti
Lambo
or something like
something.
that. Yeah, right. Porsche.
What's this? What are we talking? What's a sports car? Is that like Beamer?
Bro, you are
Audi,
asking the wrong person, man. I don't even know what half of them are. It might be my Kia Sorento. As long as it's got sports mode on it, who knows?
Would you know how to change a tyre?
Nah. But I tell you what.
That makes two of us.
But I could get my reps in, right?
Yeah.
If I get my reps in, maybe in 5 years, I'll be able to change that fucking tyre and do it quick. Yeah. You know?
Quick, smart. I like it.
But I like the colour green.
I've just recently been getting my reps in putting oil into Soph's car. So we broke down on the way to one of my best mates' weddings.
Yeah.
And I was the MC. So it was stressful, because it was like, we can't miss this, because they're people we love, but also I'm serving a part. I'm playing a role in the wedding. And it was an oil issue. And so her car's in great nick.
Yeah.
I had no idea what was going on, and I felt very helpless.
Yeah.
And my masculinity felt in question. I spoke a little bit deeper as I said that, because I didn't want people to question it.
Right, you didn't want to...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to convince people that it's not in question right now.
Is that you going deeper?
Yeah, a little bit.
Nice.
A little bit of Clooney, little Clooney husk.
It sounds like you're just getting harder to hear.
Yeah.
From where I am.
Listeners like, can't hear him. But cars scare me. And there is so many moving parts to a car that I don't want to have any business with. I'm such a convenience guy when it comes to cars. I've been driving the same bloody brilliant Ladybug red Mazda 3 hatchback for the last 8 years. Yeah. And it just never has troubles.
Yeah. Oh, they're great. Reliable cars, 100%. And this is also something I was thinking the other day. Even if I had like the fancy car, I probably wouldn't drive it, because I'd feel uncomfortable, because I don't like that sort of attention. Like
Where do you
with
live?
Right now I live in Leichhardt, but I'm about to move back into my parents' place in the Hills District. So,
can you get away with a fancy car out there? You probably can, right? In the Hills District.
There's plenty of them in like certain areas. Parking it on my under my mum's carport would probably be a bit on the nose for sure. I mean, you can get away with it.
Yeah.
I don't know. You might want to cover it up though. In Leichhardt, I definitely wouldn't have one because I don't even have a parking spot. It's just street parking, and the birds all shit on my car. I don't want shit on my Porsche.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know,
I feel like this is no judgment, right? Because people have different proclivities in life and things that they like to spend their cash on, their own hard-earned cash. So go for your life. But I always find it interesting when I drive past, like I sell houses.
Yeah.
Right? So I usually know what houses are relatively worth.
Yeah.
I always find it really interesting when I drive past a house and the car at the front is worth probably 20% or more of what the house is worth.
Right.
Because I go,
yeah,
I'd like to meet that person because they're wired differently to the average person. You know, like there's a greater lust for risk and for playing the consumerism game.
Yeah, to
when you're
prioritize
driving,
a depreciating asset over an appreciating one.
And and by the way, I'm a real estate agent that doesn't believe everyone should buy a house.
Yeah.
So I'm maybe even a little bit different for my field, but it intrigues me. There's a guy in the row of places that I live in that we rent our place.
Whereabouts are you?
I'm in Shell Harbour.
Nice.
And you probably don't know where that is, being from Sydney.
I just say nice.
Yeah. 30 minutes south of Wollongong.
Hell yeah.
Nice little spot. Really nice spot, actually.
So you drove quite a fair distance to get
I got on the train here today.
Damn.
So it's about 2 and a bit hour trip up.
Wow.
So dedication.
Yeah.
If that hasn't sold you to listen to the show, listen to the show.
That's different, bro. I appreciate that.
Oh, of course. Of course. And he's got a really nice Porsche, this guy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, respect. Something's going on unusual with this guy.
You reckon?
Well, it's just, I say unusual, but there's just something different about this guy.
Mm.
Because I live in the kind of, which I'm not knocking because I drive one, but I live in kind of a row of what I would expect to be Mazda, Toyota, Hyundai kind of people. And so I'm like, I wonder what his story is.
Is he a real estate agent?
Very good chance.
Yeah, maybe that. He might just have to fit in.
Very good chance.
That thing. I don't know. That's the only thing that I could really make of that.
I feel like there was a period of time in which when I was younger in real estate and was really I was like, this is my thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a king of real estate. You know, like that 20-year-old real estate ego that you get when you've been in the industry for about 6 weeks. And my mum actually sells cars. And so a bunch of the car yards she worked for were like, hey, why don't you drive some of our new cars in the property videos, and then we can then share the video of the property so your clients get more exposure and you get to drive a nice car for the day. And I was like, fun. And I was young, so you think that you just want all these things, right? And I remember I'd drive these really nice cars around for the day, either Beamer or Audi or something like that, and then I'd get back in my Mazda 3 and I'm like, why don't I feel any different?
Yeah, interesting.
And I'm like, oh, maybe this doesn't tickle my fancy as much as I thought it did.
Is it because you felt like it wasn't yours, or just
no, I just didn't just didn't make me feel any different as a person.
Hell yeah. Well then.
And I was like, oh, I actually don't think I really like material things as much as maybe I thought I did.
Well, you're about to save so much money.
Yeah. And I think it was a really valuable lesson that I was able to learn without spending my money.
Well, you got a honeymoon coming up and things like that.
This is true.
Yeah. You can't be out here buying sports cars anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no,
I just got a dog. They're expensive enough as it is.
Yeah.
But I love the little guy. I'd give my life for him already.
Yeah. Well, what sort of...
He's a golden cocker spaniel. I'll show you.
Yeah, I need a photo. I need the visual aid.
Mate, he's adorable.
I love dogs. I want to get... I'm kind of in my staffy mode at the moment. Hey, buddy, how you doing?
That's Barney.
Hey, Barney. Looks like a Barney as well.
Yeah, he's adorable, man. He's so...
You just
dogs
scratch
are the
the
best.
ears. Those floppy ears,
he's got like every time he eats his wet food, his ears get stuck in his bowl because they're so long. So when he's like looking down, his ears touch the ground.
All dogs have their shortcomings, man.
Yeah.
I saw a dog today when I was having lunch with Andrew, and the thing couldn't breathe. It was like one of those... I don't know what breed they are, like pugs.
Like a pug?
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
It was gasping for air. Poor guy.
Poor guy.
But he doesn't know any different.
He's never going to run a 4-minute mile, but
Nah,
cute.
not like
Not
like
man,
us.
Yeah.
But I'm not trying to compete with a pug. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah.
This
You've been
is true.
running. You lost running.
Trying. I've been prepping for a marathon,
Dope.
which hasn't been. So this will be my 7th marathon prep, and if I complete the marathon, which I will, my 5th completed marathon. So the story behind the 2 I didn't was I have had a fickle history with gout over the course of the last year or so.
Yeah.
Actually, probably over the course of the last few years, but particularly the last year, it flogged me a little bit and got really bad gout the week of our last marathon. So I had to pull the pin. Couldn't put my foot in a shoe, let alone run.
Yeah. Because in the ankles, right? Is that where
I had
hits
it
you?
ball of my foot and heel.
Yeah. Okay.
But painful.
Yeah.
And then I had run 3 marathons and an ultra when I was running my ultra actually in the first couple of weeks that Soph and I were together. So she wasn't really a runner at the time. We'd just go to the gym, and she got into running and then started to progress actually very quickly. And we were like, we'll run a marathon together. So we trained for a marathon and kind of spontaneously did it the afternoon before we were supposed to do it, the next morning.
Right.
And I had a couple schnitzel wraps and a couple coffees, catching up with a mate. And at like 30 Ks, I had to make the decision, do I complete this marathon and shit my pants, or pull the pin and keep my dignity? And at that point in time, I'd run 4 marathons. What's 5? I'd prefer to keep my dignity.
Yep.
And so I let her finish by herself with probably 6K to go.
Yeah.
Maybe 7K to go, something like that. And she was like, hey, I want to run one again this year. And I was like, well, I'd like to run one with you because I'd like to tick that off together.
Yeah.
And at the moment, we don't have any days off together as such. So our mornings and nights are precious. And so on Sunday, we've got to spend 3 hours together running 30 Ks.
Wow.
For me, it's better than sitting at home and wishing I was spending time with her. So that's the kind of guy I am, you know.
That's
I
it. Sounds like you
put
got
the
a really
cross on my
healthy
back
relationship.
and run with it. So yeah, we do.
Yeah.
We're pretty lucky, man. We're lucky, but I think we're 2 people who found each other at the perfect time, wanting the same things, and most importantly, I think sharing the same values. We have different interests.
Yeah.
Like we listen to different things. We like watch different things. So there's obviously stuff that our interest is aligned, but I just love her as a person.
Yeah.
Love in your own life?
Oh, do I have
Yeah.
love? I got love for all the people around me.
Romantic love?
Nah, not at the moment.
Seeking it?
To be honest, like, look, it would come in and knock the door down, but like, because that's what happens sometimes, right? But like, for me, just at the moment, it's just right now making a lot of time sacrifices to do the stuff I need to do now to get me to where I want to go, which is just all my days are kind of full of just working on, you know, Granny Flat and then grinding and doing auditions and things like that. I just don't have a whole bunch of time right now. And I'm sort of in this mindset of just like delaying the gratification. So I'm not actively trying to look for anything romantic. If it comes up, I don't close the door on anything in my life. I think that's just a pretty bad way to live, because if doors open, you should walk in, especially if they're, you know, good doors. But yeah, I just think right now my focus is definitely on just creating, you know, expanding what we've got.
And I think as long as the door's open, love's like water, it finds a way. So
100%,
you know,
100%.
if
Yeah,
it's there,
100%.
it happens.
Wife, kids, that'll be fun
I can't wait.
down the line. Yeah.
Can't wait to be a dad. That was part of the decision to get a dog. It's like good training.
By the way you talk, you'd be a great dad. Very healthy dude.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Likewise.
Yeah, man.
Well, man, this has been fun.
This has been good. Have you enjoyed this? Has this been not shit?
I've really enjoyed this. You know, it's funny because every podcast you sit down to do, I'm kind of a very sporadic, unplanned guy, in the sense that there's obviously planning that goes into these, and depending on who you're sitting down with, I feel like you're the kind of guy that I don't want to have a rigid topical chat with. Like we can have fun and go everywhere
for sure,
in this kind of conversation because you're that kind of character. sometimes you're sitting down with a neuroscientist and you want to get to the bottom of a few things to draw some insight for people. So
I'm not a neuroscientist, dude.
If
As
you
can
were,
tell. Sorry if I've been a bit muddly with my words. My vocab isn't super expansive, but
neither is mine.
As long as it's
But
getting
here we
across
are,
to you,
so-
then that's the main thing.
Oh, mate, this has been plenty of fun. Really appreciate you coming out of your way, and mate,
Bro.
I'm always excited because when I get to have someone on the show and make a connection, then I get to enjoy not only their work as a consumer from here on out, but I get to feel like, you know, there's a knowledge I have and an understanding of the human, which then makes it even more exciting to see you have some wins going forward. So
That's so sick, man. Let's get a couple more.
100%.
Do it. Thank you, bro.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you so
Cheers.
much.
How good was that?
Bro, that was hectic.
Before you move, let me get a...
Of course.
Yeah.